November 15th, 1956, thousands gather in Times Square to catch a glimpse of 20-year-old Elvis Presley as he arrives for the debut of his film outside the Paramount Theater here in New York City. It's the premiere of Love Me Tender. Now the Paramount hosts the flagship Hard Rock Cafe, where we continue this Fox News special report honoring Elvis on what would have been his 80th birthday, January the 8th. I'm Geraldo Elvis, and my next guest is the author, reality star, and Kiss frontman, Gene Simmons. Elvis, culturally, Elvis as a musical hero, what does he mean to Gene Simmons?
Elvis was the atom bomb that went off that started the atomic age. The word rock star didn't exist before Elvis Presley.
Without Elvis, there wouldn't have been a Beatles. Without Elvis, there wouldn't have been a whole lot of folks, because he broke ground morally. I mean, the moral sense that a lot of people had, but if you listen to Elvis, you're going straight to hell.
Born to Gladys and Vernon Presley in Tupelo, Mississippi in 1935, Elvis learns to sing in Pentecostal services with his poor but proud family at the First Assembly of God Church. At 10, standing on a chair to reach the microphone, he wins 5th prize at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show. His prize, $5 in rides. A year later, he gets his first guitar, often bringing it to school, as the Presleys move to Memphis, and he attends Humes High, attracting attention, singing a sexed-up version of Till I Waltz Again With You at the annual minstrel show.
And we were like kind of the first underground, sneaking down to Beale Street for the black shows that were segregated. And when he went out, he didn't go out to promote black music. He went out to do what he liked.
I think You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog was a really old black song that was, you ain't nothing but a, more of a bluesy thing. So obviously, and the blues of the Delta of Mississippi, where he was born and raised, we know that was part of it.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock.
In 54, a year after Elvis graduates high school, Bill Haley gives the new beat a name. And the first rock star is born when Elvis meets Sun Records producer Sam Phillips.
Sam Phillips knew, he always told me, he said, GK, if I can get a white guy that not sings like a black person, but has the feeling of a black person, I can make $1 million. And he said, I got him when I got Elvis.
With a style best described as rockabilly, Elvis covers Arthur Crudup's That's All Right, using a not-so-subtle sex appeal that makes Elvis the Pelvis different from the rest. Grammy winner Ray Stevens.
Elvis was one of Sam's proteges, as a matter of fact, as I'm sure you know. He and Jerry Lee Lewis and Roy Orbison, Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash. Elvis showed us what women were looking for in a man.
Elvis was amazing in that he also bridged the generations, the racial divide, the north-south divide. He was, in every sense, what they call now a crossover star.
Precisely, and James Brown had a great line. James was a big Elvis fan. I knew James too, Elvis, and he said, Elvis made it possible for the black man's music to really be heard.
Although Elvis obviously planted his roots deepest in Memphis, Tennessee, across the state, and sang out his show business heart later in his career across the country in Las Vegas, it was right here in Nashville that he made most of his best music. In all, Elvis Presley recorded 262 records here in Music City, beginning with that classic you hear in the background, Heartbreak Hotel. Since Heartbreak Hotel, he has sold over 1 billion records, and he continues to be a bestseller.
It was a total change. The radio stations who were, in charge at that time, they immediately switched their formats.
After trying his hand in October 1954 at the Grand Ole Opry, Elvis becomes country's first Taylor Swift, crossing over and changing the world.
The change was just overnight. The music went from Frank Sinatra to Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley was danger, and he was passion, and he was sex, and he was controversy. I mean, he broke all these barriers.
Hooking up with super manager Tom Parker, Elvis gets rich when the Colonel sells his Sun record deal to RCA for an unprecedented $40,000. With his first $5,000 advance, Elvis buys a pink Cadillac for his mother Gladys. In 1956, he goes Hollywood with Love Me Tender.
For my darling, I love you.
His dream of acting realized, Elvis makes and breaks records. Until in January 1957, just 2 days after his third and final appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show, famously filmed only from the waist up, Elvis gets his draft notice.
His lucrative career as rock and roll king interrupted for a while. Elvis Presley begins his military service.
If rock and roll should diminish in popularity or even disappear, what would you do? Well, I would probably try acting.
On emergency leave due to his beloved mother Gladys's critical illness, Elvis is in Memphis when she dies. A self-professed mama's boy, he is devastated.
Elvis laid over her coffin and said, "Mama, I'd give everything I got in the world and dig ditches the rest of my life just to bring you back for 5 minutes."
Back in Germany, heartbroken, a toxic seed is planted in Elvis's life. He's introduced to amphetamines, GI speed. In the words of a fellow soldier, Elvis becomes evangelical about their benefits for energy, strength, and weight loss. In 1960, honorably discharged, he returns to a more conservative America, with radio stations cutting back on his brand of rock and roll.
The rock and roll feel that the gyrations involved are something that really should disappear from American life. How do you feel about that?
Well, the gyrations that you're talking about, as far as I'm concerned, are just something natural. I mean, that's just my way of expressing a song. I can't help it.
And you still express yourself that way in songs in the future?
I'll put it like this. If I stand still, I'm dead.
There's some screaming fans out there. Do you still like screaming girls?
If it wasn't for them, I'd have to re-up in the army, so I'll tell you.
Scandalously, one girl Elvis can't get enough of is the 14-year-old daughter of an army colonel he'd served with in Germany. She's Priscilla Ballou, and Elvis arranges to bring her back to Memphis when his hitch is up.
Elvis, how in the hell did you talk to her father, who was a general in the army, to letting her come over by herself? He said, well, I told her she was going to stay with my mom and my dad, and then she came up to Greystone. But he was a real gentleman, a very, really a Southern gentleman.
To me, the times I cherished were the times that we were alone. And, there was always so many people in the entourage at all times. And we lived and breathed together with the entourage, traveled together, ate together, and experienced a lot of things. But the times that we were alone and when he really revealed himself.
Coming up, we'll have more from Priscilla and those closest to Elvis as we track the decline and fall of the king. As Elvis at 80 continues after this.